So jumping right into it, let's talk about one of the best bites that you can get on for big fish this time of year, and that's going to be a jig bite. Now, this time of year, depending on where you're at, you know, like if I'm fishing the river or something and I'm fishing like a lot of laydowns, a lot of things of that nature, I'm going to be throwing something like that War Eagle Heavy Finesse Jig, 3/8 ounce, to get in that cover and stuff. This thing right here, it just comes through cover perfectly. But you can use a football head jig if you're out, like, you know, on a point or something like that, or you're fishing bluff walls, something that doesn't have a whole lot of cover on it. You know, choose your jig however you typically choose it. One of the main things you may not do is you're typically putting a grub, and I do it too, put a grub on the back of your jig. Well, instead of doing that, a lot of times actually putting a Ned worm on the back of your jig, what happens is it causes that jig, once it hits bottom, it doesn't necessarily just lay over super fast. Because what happens is, like, I use this Yum Ned worm, and in the Yum Ned worm, it's got a tunnel or a little channel right here at the end of the tail, which it has air in it. So what happens is, as this bait falls, it's going to fall straight down, and as that jig hits the bottom with that air in that tail, that jig tends to kind of slowly fall over instead of just absolutely just crash right on bottom. Okay, where this can be very, very productive is when you're pulling this bait out of cover, or, you know, across a point on a football head jig or something. It kind of keeps the back end of the bait up and the head down. So if you notice, a lot of times this time of year when I'm throwing a jig, I throw that bait out there and I kind of got my rod at like 4 o'clock and I'm just kind of slow reeling it. What happens is it keeps that nose down and keeps the back end of that bait up, and it moves across bottom. It's a very, very subtle action, and it's a slight change in the action, not necessarily the presentation of the bait, kinda, but not really, because you're still presenting the bait in the same way, but it gives the bait a more subtle action.